Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Rock Your Shine After You Have Been Cracked Wide Open. Today, I am excited. I feel like I feel like my connection with my guest today is a deep soul connection, and you'll know why when I introduce her. I have with me today Nichole Eaton. She is the author of the books Rock Your Comeback, The Down to Earth Guide to Reclaiming Your Power. And her new book that she's getting ready to launch into the world is Rock Your Soul, The Down to Earth Guide to Mastering Your Mind. Nichole is an intuitive therapist, a podcaster of Rock Your Comeback, and an overall rule breaker. And she is here to help people burst through their own limits and defy beliefs that hold you back from becoming the most successful and happy version of yourself. So I would like to welcome you, Nichole, to our show today. I cannot wait to do a deep dive into your story, which is a little bit different than what we typically have. This is not about grief over a death of a person. This really is a story in your journey of launching into very early parenthood, going through a dark period, and how that dark period has led you here today where you truly are rocking your own shine. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. You're just such a bubble of light, and it's so nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you. Ditto. I feel the same way about you. And I sort of like right now the energy that I'm carrying is I feel like I'm bursting because I cannot wait for you to share the story, and because everyone knows that I have started to introduce my oracle cards. And today, to set the tone for our conversation, I pulled for you the card Poised, which is one of the most beautiful cards in the deck. And the message that is your message, but also there are people out there that need to hear it, that those of you who are getting ready to launch something, you have everything you need to make it a success, and which is perfect because you're getting ready to launch your new book. So before we jump into that, let's jump into your story. So why don't you go ahead and start us on that journey, or your journey, wherever you would like to begin.
So it's so funny because I was teaching manifestation in Charlotte, North Carolina, a couple of weeks ago. And I was saying that if I had to try to figure out how I would have gotten there teaching manifestation in Charlotte, North Carolina, I would have never done it because I got married when I was 19 and I became a mom really young. I got pregnant a little after 20. A couple weeks after turning 20, I found out I was pregnant, and I gave birth a couple months before I turned 21. So becoming a young mom is a whole journey. It's challenging watching all your friends be carefree while you're up all night long. I was still in school. I remember I had professors who were like, you need to drop my class because there's no way you could pass and miss time for giving birth. And it was a wild experience where I felt like everybody around me was like, you can't do this, or you're on your own, or whatever the case might be. And I got so lucky. I had the best pregnancy. I had the easiest delivery and the best first baby that anybody could have asked for. But it was so hard. It was so hard being sleep deprived. It was so hard trying to find daycare and going to school. It was so hard paying for daycare, and just the process of becoming a new parent, especially when you're young and nobody around you is parents. Nobody around you wants anything to do with your kids because they don't have their own and they just can't be bothered. And it was such a hard period of time. And on top of that, me and my husband, we were just so broke and so in debt because he was working a commission-based job. He was working like 12 hours a day. I would see him in passing pretty much. We were just ships in the night. And it got to a point where we were so broke. It was like, what utility do we keep on? I was living in upstate New York at the time. So it was always the heat, because it's cold as heck up there. You're in Maine, right? So you understand that one. But it really spiraled me into this really dark place. I mean, I was going to school for mental health counseling. Got my bachelor's and shortly got my master's after. And I knew all the things.
And at the same time, you are a new mother. So when you give birth to your child, daughter, did you say you
I have
gave
two
birth
girls.
to
Yep.
yeah. And so you were getting your bachelor's degree at the time. Is that what was happening?
I took my finals for my bachelor's degree 4 days after I had her.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
And my second one, I delivered 1 week after I graduated with my master's. So that was,
Just that alone tells me so much about your tenacity, because to be able to pull that off, especially when you have no sleep, no money, and it sounds like your husband was working a million hours at the time. So you're doing this solo.
yeah. And
So
it
when
really
you
got to a dark place, you know?
before or after grad school, when did you really start to sink into that place of, because I mean, I'm just thinking about, you finished your bachelor's, and then how long after that did you go on for your master's? Right
Immediately.
after?
Yep. Yep.
With the newborn.
Yes. Yes.
How did you do that?
I don't know. I mean, perfectly honest, I feel like my soul was just carrying me through for the things that I was called to do. I don't know. I look back at that time period and I was like, no idea how I did it. I mean, I really got good with my time management because I've had to finish everything. I was like nursing. I nursed for a year with each of the girls. So I was like pumping in the bathrooms at school. Like it was a wild time. And so I can't even like tell you, oh, I was in survival mode for such a long period of time, just head down getting through it. And it really led to just these thoughts of like, I think it really became feeling trapped of
Yeah.
like, this is my life. This is going to be my life. I am going to wake up, go through the motions, get through school, do the best I can, come home, get dinner on the table, get the baby in the bathtub, put her to bed, and start over the next day. And I think that that's like when we start to get on autopilot in our life is where we start to get really stuck because it feels like the same day is repeating itself. And the more it repeats itself, the more it repeats themselves, and the less it feels like there's purpose.
Yeah, I want to add some context around, because my listeners know that I talk about this often. What does it mean when we create our reality? Because the thoughts we're having right now are creating our future, right? I mean, that's the physical manifestation, are our current thoughts, which are attached to our belief system. So when we have that belief, you call it autopilot, when we're just in that dark, heavy, dense energy, and we have the thoughts of every day is going to be the same. That is exactly what is going to show up for us. So
Yeah.
you're in this dark place, you're slogging through. I can actually feel it as you're talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, and you probably have a job at this point, right? Did you get a mental health job that you, as a therapist?
Yep. I was working at a not for profit and I remember feeling so guilty because I was working helping people all day long and I had this, like demeanor that I have that I used to just fake, right? I have this demeanor that I was helpful and strong and whatever else, and then I would go home and just like it was hard to function. So it was like this real serious cognitive dissonance inside me between the life I was living and what I was doing during the day. And the thing is like I knew that your thoughts had power. I think I look at it in a different way now, but I knew at the time that mindset mattered, CBT, all the good psychological terms and ways of thinking about things. But it was so hard and I was in such a dark space that I was struggling to put it into action where it would actually serve me, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense, because I do a lot of teaching around this where, now that we're starting to sort of wake up, globally, that where we are in our own evolution, that now that people hear, The Secret came out and manifestation, there's all of these buzzwords, and it's given people more things to be anxious about, or that they're not doing well, right? I mean, when we really take it at face value and not understanding what we mean by that, because somebody who is depressed is like, are you kidding? Like, I would change my thoughts right now if I could. Do you think I want to be depressed? I mean, these are the types of conversations that we are having now. So please continue. So you were aware of it, right? Same thing. You're aware of it, like, oh, my thoughts matter, but you were not able to actually shift at that point.
Yeah, I mean it was heavy energy. It was a really dark space and when I started to like slip into the depression, I wasn't there like wholeheartedly all the time, but when I could see myself going, I knew that I was going to be there for a while. Like I just like had that belief about it. So I would love to say that I like recognized this, got out of it right away, but I was in that heavy energy for a while. And, I think when we go on autopilot for long enough, like our soul starts banging down the door. Like there's more for you. There's something else out there. This can be better. And I felt that nudge incessantly. And I remember somebody actually gifted me the book, The Secret. And it was my first introduction to the idea that not only did thoughts matter, but energy mattered. And that did something for me. That did something serious for me because it was like, oh, wait, like, okay, so let's say I'm thinking about checks in the mail when we were so broke. Like the idea was so foreign. And I was like, okay, like I'm willing to believe. And this is a phrase I use a lot is I'm willing to believe or be open to believing that maybe I could get a check in the mail. And I teach manifestation in the sense of how to manifest how you feel about yourself. But I think this was actually a pivotal moment in terms of like a tangible manifestation as I started to say, okay, well, what if there could be checks in the mail? What might that look like? And I kind of like set it and forget it. I posed that thought a couple times. And I remember we were late on the mortgage and one of our bills was due. And I was like, okay, water's getting shut off this month or whatever the case might be. And I had set this intention 3 weeks ago and I opened my mailbox and I actually had a physical check for, it was like $600 or $700, which was substantial at the time. I mean, it was enough to cover everything, right? So it was from an audit that was done on a real retail place I had worked at like 6 years before. And I had this light bulb moment come on of like, okay, so maybe there's something to this. And, I do believe that you can manifest things. However, I believe that manifesting how you feel about yourself and how you walk through the world is 10 times more important. So that kind of triggered me to say, okay, so well, what if I could feel better with this depression? What if I could feel a little bit better every day? And I've started to sit down and I do this today. And this is one of my favorite exercises. So I'm going to share it with your audience because it saved my life and I still do this daily. I script out how I want my life to go. I script out how I feel about myself. So I do that by writing a letter to the universe every single day, just as a thank you note for all of the things that have already happened, but all of the things that, I want to happen as though they've already happened. So I began to write for my mental health. I began to write for making more money. I began to write for all of these different things as though they were the case already. And I was just saying thank you for them. And we started to see opportunities open. So I think I needed that tangible thing to provide proof that the energy and intention and thought mattered, but it could matter in such a more beautiful, powerful way in regards to my joy and happiness. And I always say I wrote myself out of a depression that doctors told me time and time again that was genetic, that just was going to be my entire life. And I started to refuse to believe anything that didn't feel good and right to me. And that didn't feel good and right to me. And so I began to use these thank you letters to the universe. And my husband got, a new job and got offered a new job. And I got a raise. And then the daycare that we got waitlisted for that would be free for the one up. And it was like, it wasn't these instantaneous things. I mean, some of them were, but I think that's the thing that I talk about when I talk about manifestation is it doesn't have to be toxic positivity. It can be slow and beautiful and opening and powerful in different ways than you ever are told or talked about. And it can be powerful for how you feel about your life. Like somebody asked me the other day what my definition of success was. And I said, peace. Because for me, it does not matter what I'm doing. Obviously, I will produce things all day that, when I talk about like Rock Your Comeback, my new book that's coming out, when I talk about Rock Your Comeback, it's just an open letter to myself 10 years ago of things that I wish I would have known. I wish I would have had the steps. I wish I would have had the tools. And I hope whoever reads it feels just as inspired and powerful, knowing that those things are genuinely things that have helped both me and all of my clients that I've worked with for the last decade.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And it's very much in alignment with the way that I talk about this stuff because, we only can come from two places. It's either the essence of our soul, which is love, or fear, That's it. Those are the only two things. And so when you talk about relationship with self, it is around self-compassion and true self-love. And that is at the heart of any manifestation because that is what puts us in alignment with our essence. And so I love the way that you're talking about this because it's very concrete, because we need tools, right? We can talk from a very spiritual perspective and a vibrational perspective, but we also need to know how do we do that in the here and now. And we hear lots of buzzwords in our world now: manifestation, the attitude of gratitude. We have all of these, you say thank you as though it's already happening, right? Because that's what we're creating our future with whatever we're thinking and talking about now. And we have so many beautiful souls out there that are talking about this very thing in lots of different ways that can reach people, because different things are going to resonate with different people depending on where they are in their own soul path. But the idea of writing, I, taught a lot about positive psychology and keeping a gratitude journal, because then you are really changing your focus, right? What you focus on grows. That's the manifestation. It's all of the same stuff. And so writing a gratitude letter every day is just beautiful. I love that because it's the intentionality, right? It's being very present and very intentional. And the gratitude journal is the same thing, where at the end of the day, you write at least 5 things that you're grateful for, and not only what you're grateful for, but what have they brought to your life? And they don't have to be big things. It can be that my husband brought me my favorite mocha chocolate chip ice cream. What did that do for me? It made me feel loved, that my husband thought about me. So you're taking that idea of gratitude to that next level and really thinking about how has it enriched your life.
I'd like to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this ad. Hey guys, I want to take a minute to offer an opportunity for those of you who've been searching for a mental health therapist and haven't had any luck getting callbacks. I know it's challenging to find help, so I've partnered with BetterHelp. They are the world's largest therapy service, and they are 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message a therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you'd expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you. More scheduling flexibility at a more affordable price. Get 10% off right now on your first month at betterhelp.com/rock your shine. That's betterhelp.com/rock your shine. Now back to our episode.
What other tools that have you found have worked with your clients?
Yeah, I just want to touch on really quick about that practice because it does 3 different things for us, right? We have the idea that a repeated thought becomes a belief and a belief becomes a filter for our world. So when we repeat a thought, and especially when we write it down every morning, a new thought will eventually become a belief and it will start to act as a filter to look for that in your world. That
Yes.
gratitude is the high vibe energy that everybody's talking about, holding that good energy. So you're attracting good energy throughout the day and you're plugging into the universe, God, source, whatever you believe in, to remind yourself that you're not alone throughout your day. And that's why that practice is just so important to me personally. In terms of like what other tools, that my entire new book is just chock full of tools. So it depends on where you're at. So like if you're starting and you're like in the black hole where I was 10 years ago, this is your sign to just get back to the basics. Just make sure you're getting outside a little bit during the day, getting some sunlight on your face, putting your feet on the earth. Just make sure you're eating enough and drinking enough water. Just making sure that you're controlling the things that you can control on a physiological level, because that will help both your mindset and your energy go to the next level. And then if you're in that thought space, you can do something I call personal inventory. So I know that my thoughts dictate what I see. How can I go through each area of my life and look at what am I just overall believing about the health in my life? What am I overall believing about the love in my life? What am I overall believing about my career in my life? And based on that belief, if my brain is a Google search bar and whatever I'm typing in, it starts looking for internally and externally, what is it bound to see based on what I believe? And what would I prefer to see? What would I have to believe or work towards believing to see something new in that area of my life? So the personal inventory is a lot of fun because it gives you a lot of good reflection and honesty with where you're really at in these areas, that it's not that your love life is garbage. It's that, man, you have some really deep-seated beliefs that love has to be challenging or hard or doesn't last. So we can look at those. And in terms of like, I love plugging into my intuition and inviting the universe in. So another tool that I would use, and if I'm moving into that space where I just really want to hear myself speak, I want to hear my energy speak to me, I want to be in tune with my soul. This is one of my favorite ways to do this. So I want everybody listening to think of something that they really, really love. And I just want you to say that over and over in your head of, maybe that's your spouse or your kids or your dog or your cat or whatever you really love. And just as you say it, I want you to notice your body, and I want you to notice your body relaxing or your body feeling light. I just want you to notice what your body does when you're in alignment and what love feels like in your body.
Exactly. Yes. Perfect. Because that's the heart center.
And the mean thing that I'm going to have people do now is I want you to actually say that same thing, but that you hate that thing. And it's not a fun feeling, but I want you to pay attention to where in your body picks up misalignment and untruth. And a lot of people feel tightening in their stomach. A lot of people feel their heart sink. A lot of people feel their jaw tighten or their shoulders tighten. And we can go back to saying we love that thing. We can undo this, right? We can go back to, so go ahead and do that for a moment. But this is how your body is speaking to, because your body is speaking to you at all times. So when you learn to know what those signals mean and how it speaks to you, you can look for truth in your body. You can even do this when you're doing manifestations. If you're trying to up level your manifestations, you can say something new and say, okay, does my body willing to believe that? And if not, we might have to take it down a notch. So, maybe I'm not manifesting going from being super insecure to saying, oh, I'm always confident, but maybe I'm willing to be open to believe I can feel a little bit better about myself every day. Well, that feels better than saying I'm confident, because when I'm saying I'm confident, my body's kicking it back and saying that's not true. So we can work with our intuition to manifest and find better beliefs for our thoughts to look for. And it's all working together if we learn how to work it. So I always encourage people, if you're not sure where to start with the basics. If you want to build from the basics, look at what you're thinking. If you want to build from what you're thinking, look at your intuition. And we can combine them all to create some really cool manifestations.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I'll add to that, just again, for those listening, everything resonates differently. But when you're talking about listening to your body, I think about that as my higher self, my intuition, my soul, right? And I know that's what you're talking about. And our true north is when we are in that vibration of love, no matter what it is. The other thing I want to say about that, if you are wondering what your beliefs are, and maybe you say, well, I don't really know, like, what are my beliefs? Just look at your physical world. If you are in a relationship that is not loving and kind, then you have a belief about yourself, and it's around worth and self-worth. And so I do a lot of compassion meditation with people that starts with meditation and compassion for self. I took this amazing course with this 75-year-old Buddhist monk out of London. It was so wonderful. But anyways, because that's where it starts. Because when we think about self-love, it really is it's self-love for the collective, right? For our world, for all of us in the world. So I think that what these tools that you're offering, it is listening more deeply to how do you feel? Do you feel good or not good with these decisions that you make? Listen to your language. Language matters. And the language that we use will also tell you what beliefs you are attached to. So it is heightening your awareness of everything that you're doing, what's happening in your body, the words that are coming out of your mouth, and what is in your world right now that you are looking to change. Such powerful work. It's soul work. It is, and I love that you're talking about all of this because you, as your awareness grew, you continued to change your own life when you were in that dark period.
Yeah.
And you are a therapist at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And now you as a therapist, because this has also happened to me, because I think that the true mental health world can be limiting, and
Yeah.
that you are also bringing in your intuitive gifts in the work that you're doing with people.
Yeah. It's so funny because everyone's like, oh, well, how do we become like from a mental health counselor to an intuitive therapist? Like, where did that even come from? And when you're sitting with people one-on-one and you are locked in and you are present, you just experience something wholly different. And I remember thinking, okay, so what is this? Why am I able to know things about people that they're not explicitly telling me? What is that? Am I losing my mind? What is going on here? And I got so curious about that. I got so curious about that because it was really freaking me out. If I'm being honest, like there was just synchronicities and things that were coming out of my mouth that I'm like, I don't really even know why I said that or where that came from, but it was powerful and healing. So I'm watching all of this take place and I started to get so curious and started Googling intuition and everything I could know about intuition and am I crazy and all of those things, right? And I ended up finding this psychic medium who was about 2 hours from my house, and she was offering intuition classes. And I'm like, I'm going to take that. I'm going to learn everything there is to know. And so I went and started training with energy and intuition and, did traditional readings for a while. And I realized that that's not necessarily my thing because I think that the work that comes from these messages is healing and not entertainment. But it's really powerful. And I think it's really healing to combine all of these things. Like thoughts
I,
alone can do so much.
I agree wholeheartedly. This, I love what you're saying. Okay, so let's talk about what is it that you're offering now to clients? It doesn't sound like, are you taking on individual clients still? Do you do one-on-one work or do you do group work? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I do one-on-one work occasionally. I've definitely limited my schedule due to some other demands on my profession and life, but I do occasionally take on one-on-one clients if they're the right fit for me. So we do work that is a very good mix of traditional mental health counseling. We talk about things. We talk about mindset. We talk about what's going on in your life. And then we hold compassion and we look at the energy behind it and the manifestations behind it. And we work to help you harness your intuition so that you can more deeply trust yourself and hold confidence in yourself to make choices that are in alignment from your gut. So that's really where I like to help people the most is their mindset and helping them really harness their intuition to manifest the life they are super excited about. But more so what I'm really passionate about at this moment in time is I've just opened up an online membership. So as I've expressed throughout this entire podcast, I was super broke at one point in time. And I love that coaches are feeling more confident to put together these very expensive offers. But at my heart and soul, I will always need to provide something for somebody who was me 10 years ago.
Me
So
too.
I took all of the courses that I previously charged hundreds and hundreds of dollars for, and I put them in one space. It's called the Comeback Club. It's an online membership, and it is every single course I've ever made and a new one every single month, a new masterclass. We do a live Q&A, so sort of like a little group therapy session. And I do like a weekly journal prompt to help people stay accountable. And I've been jumping on live every Friday, even though I didn't promise that, but I just like to hang out in there because the people are so fantastic. And I have that for 22 a month. So even if somebody just wanted to jump on and pour all of it in and jump out the next month, I don't really care as long as you get what you need. And then I have my Rock Your Comeback podcast. So that's a lot of fun. That's based on my new latest book, Rock Your Comeback, The Down to Earth Guide to Reclaiming Your Power, which is out August 22nd. 22nd. So if this is, I don't know when this will come out, but if you're listening to this past August 22nd, you can get
this will this will come out in September. I mean, and so it's perfect. So your book launch, and that'll be available, I'm assuming, everywhere, right? At
yes.
Amazon, the whole thing. And we'll have
Yep.
we'll have all of your links in the show notes. I love the membership piece because I think that I'm getting ready to do something very similar, as a matter of fact. But because I do think it's important that we have things that are accessible to people, and, and tools, because as you said, not everyone can afford these courses that are hundreds of dollars, but are in need of something right now. And so, like I said, we'll have all of those links in the show notes. But I always I bring these interviews full circle, ending with two questions. And I'm very excited to hear your responses to these particular questions. But before I jump into the last two questions, I'm sure people are wondering, when you were in this dark period in your life, a very young mother trying to keep the light bill on, what was the time frame when you started to discover a different way of being, a different way of approaching your life? How long did it take you? What was that? I know that we never reach our destination, but sort of when things really started to turn around for you.
That's a fantastic question. I would say it was a slow turn. And I would say it took about a year after having my second daughter. So that was a 3-year difference between the first. And again, I don't know if it was situational or postpartum with my first. I really don't know. But either way,
Could have been
that
a
was,
combination.
yeah. So it took about a year to get curious. And then that also opened my intuition. When I got The Secret, I started to get interested in the energy aspect, but it also opened my intuition, like cracked it wide open. And then I started training with the medium. And so it was like kind of a combination of things that led to me feeling better. And I would love to be like, it was quick and it was overnight, but it's okay if it's slow. It's okay if it's not happening overnight. It's okay if you start on a trajectory of self-care and manifesting and doing all of the things, and then you kind of fall off the wagon. It's okay to hold compassion for yourself and saying, okay, I'm ready to treat myself good again. Like I'm ready to step back on. I'm ready to like take my power back into my own hands. So it's okay if it's not immediate, but it's also wonderful if it is. So I think everybody has a different journey, and I would love to be like, yes, this happened overnight and I was just better and it was permanent, but that's not true at all. So if you're in a dark place, hang in there. It's okay if you climb uphill and slide a little back down. Nobody is judging you except for yourself, and we can stop that right now. We can move on from that. So yeah, it took a little while, but it was like slow increments of possibilities and doors opening that kept expanding. And now, I mean, I wish I could just turn my computer around so you could see like just the blessings that have come into my life, my house, my job, my career, my alignment, my beautiful backyard and pool stitch. Like it's all part of it. Like I have the best kids. I mean, I have a 15-year-old and everybody's like, oh, is she a nightmare? I'm like, she is the loveliest person you will ever meet. She is the most amazing. So hang in there. It's all adding up. Every little thing that you're doing, every little intention that you're putting out there, every small little change you're making. I like to compare this to a cake, right? Manifestation is a cake. And it's got, a couple ingredients, thoughts and energy and intention. And if you change even one little ingredient, the slightest bit, it'll make the cake taste different.
Yeah.
So hang in there, change one small ingredient at a time, and it will all add up to something really beautiful. And you'll be sitting here, at some point in your life being like, wow, I created this and it's spectacular.
And it's spectacular. Something else that I do with my grief and loss clients, where it can be pretty dark, especially I specialize in working with parents who have lost children. And, a very simple thing that I have them practice is just rubbing their heart and saying, I love you. And that is an immediate way to bring attention and love and to remove that sense of judgment. Because here on planet Earth, that's what we do. We judge ourselves, we judge each other. so harshly, and that judgment delays a lot of things because that's not self-love, that's self-judgment. And so talk to yourself the way would you talk to your child, and treat yourself with that same depth of compassion. And if you are so inclined, rub that beautiful heart and tell yourself how much you love yourself. And okay, so thank you for that. Now, speaking of self-love, what does self-love mean to you?
Self-love for me is it's a combination of a lot of things. It's the way I show up for myself. It's the way I trust myself. It's the way I follow through. It's the time I take to come back within. I think that's the most powerful thing. When you're a parent, it's really easy to be external all the time and be looking and doing and perfecting and cleaning and cooking. And when you're so outside of yourself and you don't ever come back in and hold that space. And I do that too. I put my hand right over my heart and I just close my eyes and I take that time to just come back within. That's the space of creation. That's the space of love within me. So I would say, similar to you, it's the day-to-day things and the way I show up for myself. I make myself a priority, which is something that took me a long time to figure out. But now that I've got it, that's how I start my day. And that's what I teach my kids. I teach my kids how to take time for themselves when they need it, how to follow through it on the things they say they're going to do for them, not for anybody else, and to treat themselves with kindness, especially when the voice in their head wants to do the opposite.
So gorgeous. Okay, finish the sentence for me. Hope is.
My gut reaction was love. It's finding love in the places where there might not be any or might be harder to find.
I have loved every minute of this conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your gift and your light and your beauty in this world. Thank you for coming here and rocking your shine. And I just really encourage all of you to, if something resonated, which I know it did, with those of you who really need to hear it, just take that first small step, as Nichole talked about. Write that letter to the universe, write that gratitude letter, try something different. And gosh, suspend your self-judgment. And remember again, the message today for those of you who need to hear it is poised. If there is something that you are wanting to do or launch and it feels right for you, set your fear aside and go for it. And Nichole, is there anything else you would like to say to listeners that I have not asked you?
You can start over at any minute of any day. It does not matter what life has looked like up to this point. It's just a past manifestation of your thoughts, your actions, and your feelings and your energy. And if you decide to start over right now, at the end of this podcast, you get to start over. It doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday. It doesn't matter if 2 p.m. It doesn't matter. You get to have the life that your soul is asking you to have.
Thank you. Thank you, listeners. I love you guys. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for your support. And again, I hope that you will take something with you today as you continue on your own journey. Thank you. And I'll see you guys here next week. Bye for now.